and welcome to the Football Hipsters podcast. It is Thursday in the UK, and that means it's time for another episode of the Satchel, the second one this season. And I have upgraded on John. Sorry, John. John is unavailable tonight because he is away working. So I went to the one person that I knew I could get hold of and I knew I would enjoy talking to, and that is Miss Lana Dawood. Good evening, Lana.
Good evening. How
nice
are
to
you?
Have you back. I'm
you.
Good. I'm good.
Thanks for having me back. I'm honored as always.
Anytime. It's been a while, so we thought let's dig you back out, and we're going to see how long it takes you to have a potty mouth. No, I'm sure you'll be great. So
I've been mourning since July, so I think it was about time that I got out of my funk.
Fair enough. I like that. Well, just in case there is anyone listening with fragile ears, there might be some swearing. So we're just going to give you a warning right now.
Oh, you're warning the defense against yourself. Good.
Exactly, yeah. So I have no issues with you. It's me, of course, naturally. Right. So we're going to crack on then. So we've got people who might be listening to this for the first time. This is our kind of bi-weekly review of the Champions League and Europa League games when they happen. Of course, this week we had a full programme in both, and Europa League is just wrapped up. So we're going to start in reverse order, and we're actually going to look at the Europa League and then move on to the Champions League. So, Lana, tonight's Europa games, you sat through, first of all, the Inter Milan game. I want to pick up on this because they're a side that it's a bit complicated, this Europa League situation with them, isn't it? They're playing a lot of their players that are not the first team players, like Sergio Mario's being left out, Stevan Jovetic. Some of the big names are being left out because of this fear of this fine or suspension they're going to get. So they're playing some reserve players, but even with a reserve side, they lost at home to Beersheva, and now they've gone away and lost in Prague by 3-1. What did you make of their performance, and what do you make of them as a whole?
It feels like no one is taking the Europa League seriously this season. I mean, people are teams are losing to other teams that I've never heard of. I mean, when I saw Inter losing their first game, I was like, is this a team? But, they're such a bipolar team, which, if you're used to watching Inter, you wouldn't be surprised. I mean, they can, in 1 week, they can go on and beat the Italian champions, Juventus, and then go on to lose to Sporting Prague. I think they were playing tonight. It just seems like they're not taking the Europa League seriously, which is a shame for the Italian league in general, because, we're all about the coefficient points and getting back, the third and fourth Champions League spot. But it's a shame, because I think their squad is big enough to be able to compete on all fronts, especially in Europa League, as they've talked about taking seriously, since they're mocking other Italian teams when they choke. So it's kind of a karma situation going on, but I'm shocked. This is their second loss in the Europa League, and I was expecting the Boyers team to actually, build on the monument from the Juventus game and go on to win, but it looks like they're falling back to, classic Inter, winning, losing. So it's about being consistent, which isn't something they're, known for. And I say this every season. I said it last season as well. Inter will be Juve's main contenders if they can keep up, which they didn't. But, I genuinely do hope, as, a whole for the league, that they do manage to stay consistent and be potential contenders for the title and go on to do well in Europa League. It would be nice to knock off Spain as the champions of Europe, seeing as Sevilla has won it twice in a row. And it would be nice to see an Italian team do well, but they just look, I don't know, like they have no respect for the Europa League, no desire to win it, which is a shame for the fans who go to these games, for fans who watch it on TV and suffer through Ranocchia defending or trying to defend. I don't know what he's trying to do. He's a really nice person when you meet him. But
he's not very good.
My God, that man cannot defend for the life of him. And he even got sent off today, which wasn't a shocker.
He did.
So
you'll have to. John will tell you all about his massive loathing of Ranocchia at some point.
Him and everyone else, every Inter fan on my timeline seems to have a dislike towards him. I met him actually recently. He was a nice guy, and I guess I just make fun of him. That's all. But it's a shame that they're not able to keep up and win.
Yeah.
I mean, they should be able. A team of, if you look at the players they have, they should be capable of winning, or at least trying to get a draw or not conceding 3 goals.
Yeah, 3 goals it is quite the defeat. And looking at the side, I mean, with the likes of Banega and Felipe Melo, D'Ambrosio and the Murillo, it was a decent enough side, and yet they couldn't get the results. So 2 defeats out of 2 for Inter. That's not good. Let's move on to a team that have you'll be quite familiar with. Have impressed in Ligue 1 this season, really impressed, in fact, to the point where they are currently top of the table. But a bit of a come down tonight for Mario Balotelli's Nice over in Krasnodar, 5-2. Quite the scoreline. Do you think this is a priority competition for Nice? I mean, that you've got to think that they're looking at Ligue 1 this season and thinking probably not going to last the title race, but could maybe squeak into the Champions League. But then surely they look at this competition as well and think, well, if we can win this, we could be in the Champions League. So where do you think their priorities lie?
It does lie in Europa League, because I remember they were so disappointed not getting the Champions League because they were above Lyon for a good time, last season. And we all talked about how, Lyon at one point were in relegation zone, then slowly moved up and even beat Monaco to the Champions League spot. And I remember Nice fans being so disappointed because they were playing really, beautiful football last season. Everyone aspired to be like them. And in my opinion, they're even playing better this season, doing tremendously in the league. I mean, if you look at them, it's a joy to watch. And it's just shocking. When I saw the scoreline, it was like pulling a Spurs, basically. Familiar 5-2 scoreline. I mean, for all Arsenal fans, that should be a good one. But I was surprised because they won their first game, if I'm not mistaken. And to concede 5 goals, that's so unlike them, because they've been really good defensively, conceding few goals, and they have a brilliant midfield. Their attack is doing well. Balotelli has been getting so much praise from Italian, even French media, and it was just a shock to see how poorly they were tonight. Because I was hoping they'd do well. It's always nice to see French teams doing well, unless they're PSG or Marseille, of course.
You won't get any arguments for me on that one. I do like to see him, and a big fan of Lucien Favre, who's doing a good job there. But Balotelli did get on the score sheet, as did Cyprien, who's highly rated as well. But a 5-2 defeat for Nice, not so great. Looking at another club, let's put the focus on the English clubs for a minute. You, like I, sat through the snooze fest that was Manchester United 1, Zorya of Ukraine 0. Lots of incidents in this game. The one thing I want to touch on, obviously, it's a winner from Zlatan, which, as much as I want to dislike him, I still can't, because it's Zlatan, and you know that. You know that as well as I.
Even I can't do that.
Legend of the man, but he notched the winner. United on the night were pretty poor. I think Pogba again was poor. That they don't seem to be clicking. But I want to ask you more about the conduct of Jose Mourinho. Noticeably sort of agitated throughout the game. There was a very public bust up with his assistant Rui Faria, he of the eye poking, etc. And Adam, one of his other coaching staff, where it seemed to revolve around set plays and a booklet that was being shown to Rashford, which didn't seem to go down with Mourinho. Do you think this is all for show to deflect the sort of the pressure that he's under, or the pressure his players are under, or do you genuinely think that he's feeling the pressure at the moment?
I think it's a mix of everything. I mean, I was talking about it earlier on the timeline regarding his, I don't know, obsession with Arsene Wenger. He lost or drew a game and then goes on to talk about Wenger and how he's done. And it just shows that he deflects it all off by talking about something else, blaming his player. It seems like he will blame everything and everyone except himself. And I think he's under a lot of pressure. I don't see him lasting, and considering the players that he brought in this season, they should be doing much better than they are. And I look at Pogba and I see how much he's struggling, and I'm not enjoying it because, I adore Pogba, I love him, and it's just sad to see, when you go from the midfield that he used to play for in his preferred role, and he knows what he's doing, and now he's coming into this new side where he's playing with, Schneiderlin, Fellaini, I don't know who else they have in midfield. They should be doing much better than they are, and to win 1-0 tonight, in my opinion, it was a lucky goal as well. It's just a club of that stature should be doing much better than they are, especially since they got the manager that they've been craving, bringing back Pogba, signing Zlatan. It just shows that, everyone asks to bring in players, sign this, why didn't you sign this? But it doesn't necessarily mean that if you get all the players that you want, they're automatically going to start playing beautiful football or winning convincingly or doing well. I mean, look at United, look at PSG for that sake. They're struggling as well. So, I don't know. I think he's good at deflecting the blame. He did it at Madrid, did it at Chelsea as well. And now he's doing it at United. So, I don't know. I'm just like, Zlatan, what did you get yourself into?
It's that, isn't it? It's that kind of thing of like loving a player and they move to a club you dislike and you go, sorry to any United fans listening, but But
you can see it you see it. I mean, imagine going from Marco Verratti to Maria, Luca Moura, Pastore to
Fellaini.
Okay, yeah, and okay, he has Pogba, but then he has Rashford and then he has Rooney. I mean, it's like everyone has a hate-love relationship with Wayne Rooney. I mean, you drop them, they trash Leicester 4-0 or 4-1, whatever the result was. Then you bring him back and they seem to struggle. It's like, I don't think Zlatan and Rooney on the pitch together work as well. No. I would play Zlatan in a deeper role as he did at PSG in his last season, and it was arguably his best season throughout his career. So I would bench Rooney and play Zlatan in the deeper role and just have, Martial up front, Rashford, who's that, Mkhitaryan guy as well. Having...
Who is that, sorry? Which one?
Oh, that new guy they signed this summer. I always struggle to pronounce his name.
Oh, Eric Bailly, the centre-back.
No.
Or Mkhitaryan.
Yeah, him.
Yes, yeah. Who's apparently not fit at the moment, but
yeah. But why wouldn't you have? You have such a pacey and good attack. Why not use it? Why not play arguably one of the best playmakers in the world in Zlatan? Have a play deep. Maybe it is time to say goodbye to Rooney. I mean, he's been at the club for so long and he's been trash. Sorry, United fans, for 3 years now, and the way he's treated the club. Having transfer requests every summer, holding the club at ransom. I mean, any other club would have just, binned him and moved on. But it seems like United, he either has some corrupt stuff of them or whatever. I mean, I would have just let him leave ages ago.
Yeah, it is a strange one. He was benched again for tonight's game, but came on late on and didn't really have too much an effect. So it'll be interesting to see whether he plays at Stoke. But we'll leave that game behind because not a lot happened, but United did get the win. And I'm just going to quickly run through the rest of the Europa League games tonight because there's a lot to talk about in the Champions League. So we're going to move on, but I'll run our listeners through the other results. So Astana and Young Boys of Bern drew 0-0. Kabbalah lost at home to Mainz by 3-2. Amuto with a goal there for Mainz. Ajax beating Standard Liège by 1-0. Dolberg with the winner there. Celta Vigo 2-0 winners over Panathinaikos. 2 late goals. Jean Guidetti,
Yes.
who you'll know well, and Daniel Vass, formerly of Evian, getting the winners there. Zurich, Grasshopper Zurich 2-1 winners over Osmanlispor, 2-1. Steaua Bucharest 1-1 draw with Villarreal at home. Sparta we've covered beating Inter Milan. Hapoel Beersheva, Ross informs me, I did watch this game actually, and Ross was saying it was not the greatest spectacle in the world. Southampton coming away with a point, and he sent me this message previously and just said that it was a poor game, but you don't travel 2,000 miles to run your ass off and tire yourself out for an away day at Leicester. Very good point actually, and he also makes the point the youngster I think it's James Hesketh was taken off to 35 minutes. He said he's not sure why, so it's a bit disappointing for him, but nevertheless I think Ross is more focused on Leicester on the weekend. But also Virgil van Dijk missing a really clear chance early on in that game that ended 0-0. Ghent beating Konyaspor by 2-0. Safe Neto with the goals there. Shakhtar Donetsk 2-0 victory over Braga despite going down to 10 men just after the second half. Fred being sent off there. Viktor Kovalenko star getting one of the goals for Shakhtar Donetsk. Fiorentina 5-1 victors over Karabag. Including 2 goals from Mauro Zarate and 2 for Kalim Babacar in that game, also Nikola Kalinic. Slobodan Liberec losing at home to PAOK Salonika, late winner there. Schalke finally getting a victory, although they don't seem to have a problem in the Europa League. It's the Bundesliga they have trouble in. Goretzka, Kara and goal, and Benedikt Haverdes getting the 3 goals to beat Salzburg. Tom won't be happy. Soriano, he will be happy he scored. He always scores, but it wasn't enough. 3-1 defeat. We've covered Krasnodar beating Nice by 5-2. Bilbao with a 1-0 victory over Rapid Wien. Beñat with a winner there. Genk with a 3-1 victory over John's second favourite team in Italy, Sassuolo. Boo.
Oh, wow.
Austria Wien, I should say, 0-0 draw with Victoria Pilsen. Roma finally decided to win. Strootman, Fazio, Fabrizio Angol and Mohamed Salah with a 4-0 victory over Astana. Zenit St. Petersburg with a 5-0 thrashing of AZ Alkmaar, including a goal for the Italian Crescito and 2 for Cocker in there. Dundalk of Ireland, famous victory for them. A 1-0 victory over Maccabi Tel Aviv. First win for an Irish team in the Europa League. Fantastic result there. Killian Kilduff with the winning goal after 72 minutes. Congratulations to them. Olympiacos 0, Apoel 1. That's quite a big result actually for Apoel, away from home. Really good result that. Fenerbahce, Emmanuel Emenike. West Ham fans probably won't remember him very well, but he got the winner at Feyenoord. Manchester United we covered in the victory, and St Etienne with a very, very late goal from Nolan Roux of all people. Finally finding the net twice in a week actually, levelling Yeli Timelin's penalty goal for Anderlecht in a 1-1 draw. We're not going to go through the tables because frankly we'd be here till midnight, so we're going to move on to the week's Champions League games. And Lana, we're going to start with the Wednesday action and work our way backwards. I want to start with the Celtic Manchester City game, described by the BBC pundit Mark Chapman over here as the perfect game of football. A 3-3 draw, obviously goals, action, just completely back to forward, attacking against defence the whole way. Just had everything. Goals from Fernandinho, Sterling and Nolito for Manchester City, 2 for Dembele and a Raheem Sterling own goal, in fact, making it 3-3. A hell of a game of football. Question I want to ask you is, we've seen 2 games now, Swansea with Manchester City and now Celtic, where teams have attacked Manchester City and they've got a bit of joy. Do you think this is the blueprint for teams to potentially attack City, and will they be able to keep Barcelona at bay when Pep goes back home in a few weeks' time?
I think that when you find the blueprint and know how to beat them at their own game, City are beatable, no doubt about it. And it will be interesting to see Barcelona against City. I think Barcelona will trash them. I hope so anyway. But the game against Celtic was a really good game. I loved watching Dembele. There were scouts from Arsenal there, Juventus, United, all the big clubs in Europe were there to scout him, and very impressed with him, which they should be. He's enjoyed a fine start to the season, so I'm very excited about him, obviously, as I am with most young players. But it was a game of who can concede less goals, basically, because neither of the teams could defend throughout the 90 minutes. One team scoring, then the other, then the equalizer, then one going up. But it was a fun game. It was everything a football match should be about, in my opinion, anyway.
I was just going to ask you, with regards to that game, I mean, yeah, as you said, lots of goals, lots of attacking football. When you mentioned Dembele there, just briefly, do you think that Scottish football is kind of the perfect platform to showcase his talent? Because we've seen with another Dembele, Usman, who was obviously fantastic last season in Liga, and he's got the big move to Dortmund, and if anything, he's only got better since that move. So do you think if Dembele was to leave Celtic, having succeeded in Scottish football already, do you think he's ready even now? Now the end of the season, to make the move to one of these big clubs? Because it's a hell of a step up, but when you score goals in the Champions League, you turn heads.
Yeah, obviously, but I'm of that opinion that you shouldn't move too soon unless you're mentally strong enough to do it. You've seen that with so many French players moving too soon from League One to England, with Amavi, Veretout, Toivonen, Kabel, and all these, and half of them return back to France because they can't handle the pressure. In my opinion, I don't get the pressure of playing for Villa or for Newcastle, but that's just me. But I would love for him to at least stay another season or two, just become more consistent, because it's so easy to get the target of a one-season wonder, as we've seen with Premier League fans calling Lacazette a one-season wonder, or Fekir, Pogba, mostly French players being hyped up. So we saw that with Tolisso, staying on, now leaving, Umtiti also staying when clubs were coming after them. And I think this summer was the right time for him to step up, move to Barcelona, because he was mentally ready for it. And with Dembele going to Dortmund, I thought, I've seen him play for Rennes, and he's just such a mature player for his age, and really down to earth. Looks like a guy who won't let fame phase him, which we've seen with so many other French players. And it's just exciting to see how well he's doing in Germany, getting the praise. We saw him in the Champions League; he was doing so well. But I wouldn't mind Dembele staying on in Celtic for at least another season, just to get that level of consistency before moving on to a big club.
Yeah, because I get game time and sort of develop his craft, and almost play in a weaker league to develop his own unique skills before he moves on. I would agree with that, actually, and play, most importantly, because he's not going to play at a big club right now, I wouldn't imagine. You mentioned briefly there Dortmund. We'll move on to their game with Real Madrid, which was back on Tuesday. A 2-2 draw. If the Man City Celtic game was a perfect game of football, this had almost the same. A 2-2 draw, largely in part to some hilarious goalkeeping from Keylor Navas in the Real Madrid goal, who I think it's his first appearance of the season, had a habit of basically trying to look like Superman, refusing to catch anything, and eventually it was his error that cost the equaliser for Dortmund from Aubameyang after Ronaldo put Madrid in front. Rafael Varane bundled Real Madrid back in front, and then Andre Schürrle hit an absolute rocket in the 87th minute to level things up. What I want to ask you is, do you think either of these two clubs are capable of winning the Champions League? Obviously, we know Real Madrid are the current holders, which automatically means they can't win it because no one ever seems to be able to retain the trophy. But do you think both these sides will be looking to win this tournament? Do you think they've both got what it takes this season with the squads they've got?
It depends. Football is a game of luck. I think Madrid got lucky last season. It was just a freakish season of Champions League last season. But this season, teams, they don't look as convincing as they have in the past. I haven't felt any team convincing me of being favorites so far. I mean, I wouldn't even say about Juventus or Madrid, Bayern Munich, Barcelona. They've all have moments of weakness or being able to exploit their defense or outrun them in midfield, and we saw that with Barcelona, with Bayern against Atletico, Juve struggling against Sevilla. So I think it's anyone's game at this moment right now. Maybe after all the group games have been played, we'll get a clearer view of who looks more strong to take the title. Hopefully, I'm hoping for Juve this season, obviously, but
we will touch on them.
But I don't know. I don't have any clear favorites so far.
No,
I haven't been convinced yet.
I'm kind of with you. There's no every team that sort of impresses me then stumbles, or the other way around. I'm completely with you on that. And we will. One thing I'll say about Dortmund, actually, from a selfish point of view, I'm delighted to see how well Rafael Guerreiro is doing.
Oh yeah, it was such a great night for ex-League One players.
It really was, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was just great to watch. So I'm thrilled for him. Especially the Dortmund side. Three of their standout players were all ex-League One players. So
yeah,
it was lovely to watch. And speaking of Keylor Navas, I felt bad for him. It was his first game in, I think I read 120 days or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was a shame, that being thrown into the game in such a big game as well, and then being at fault for the goals conceded. Rafael Varane's own goal was just funny. I couldn't stop laughing.
It was so silly, wasn't it? Just like
it was just like, how? I mean, it wasn't his fault. It was still funny, but I did get a lot of abuse from Madrid fans over that.
As you do.
Yeah, they're such a special bunch.
Yes, they certainly are. Let's talk about one of the teams that you do follow then, and that is the old lady Juventus. Comprehensive victory in Zagreb in Croatia, 4-0. And before we come on to your beloved Lyon, which we will in a second, Juventus are one of the favourites for the Champions League. They've spent an awful lot of money, well documented how much they've spent over the summer. A couple of their big signings, well, in fact, 3 of their signings this summer got goals in this game: Pjanic, Higuain and Dani Alves. Paulo Dybala also back on the score sheet, which is good for him. He's had a tough season so far. And looking at this result, does it say more about Juventus or does it say more about Zagreb not being particularly good? I mean, 4-0 is a pretty good display away from home. But what do you think, having seen Juventus this season? Are they convincing you?
Not yet. I mean, the season is still young. I mean, we've just started walking, and I've had a few arguments with Juventini on the timeline. Somewhat Allegri out after 4-5 league games, 2 Champions League games, and I have to tell you, Juventini are some of the most spoiled brats on this planet, and I follow a lot of typical, the diverse fans. But I mean, we won 4-0, yet people will complain that we didn't score 6 or 7 goals, or why didn't Higuain score a hat trick? Blah blah. Just complaining over silly stuff, and people fail to realize that we brought in 5 new players. Our best midfielder is out injured, and we're still trying to find a formula that, makes us click. Trying to make these players gel, it takes time, and I'm surprised, because we're top of the league, we're top of the Champions League group as well, considering how we started the season last season, where we were in relegation zone. No one was, abusing the manager, the players. They were like, okay, it takes time to get up. But this season, it's surprising to see people turning on Dybala after, starting the new season, and turning on Allegri, people abusing poor Asamoah, who's playing in a position he's not used to playing. And it's just a shame that, some of our leaders having to come out on Twitter or in any social media, even on TV, to tell the fans to come together and back the team. It's just a shame that they had to do that. Bonucci had to do it as well a few weeks ago, was like asking us to back the team. And I think it's wrong that a player has to come out and ask us to do that, because it's just like a marriage, you know, we go through good times and bad times. We have to stick through the team. And the fact that Juventini has the nerves to complain after winning 4-0 is beyond me. I mean, yeah, sure, we haven't been that convincing, but we shouldn't complain if you look at how well we're doing. So, I don't know. These days, football doesn't make sense to me.
No, that makes two of us. We should give you an opportunity, and again, for those listeners who haven't heard of your thoughts before, you are a passionate Lyon fan. So we'll touch on the other game in this group, which was, of course, Lyon away from home in this game. And I kind of jinxed this because I said to you that I kind of fancied them to get something. And yeah, I jinxed it. I get denied Sevilla. A 1-0 defeat, and the Spaniards coming away with 3 points. I presume you watched this game. I've only seen limited highlights, and it was, again, a former Liga player who got the winner, Wissam Ben Yedder, the former Toulouse forward, striking, and that was that for Sevilla. Did they deserve it? Is there any complaints from you about Lyon? Do you feel they did enough to win this game, or is it fair that Sevilla took the points?
First of all, Ben Yedder should have been on the Lyon side. If Aulas had, decided to sell Valbuena and actually spend the money on buying Ben Yedder, he went for like 9 million. In first half, Lyon were great. Fekir had like 3 chances, hit the bar, the post, went wide. He was enjoying his Champions League debut. People seem to forget that he's been out for so long that he didn't take part of the Champions League season last season, and it was his first game, and he was great. He was so unlucky not to score. But in second half, Sevilla were all over Lyon. They even missed a penalty. Ben Yedder had chances after chances, and in the end, he did score it. I think it was his 7th goal against Lyon in 9 games. So, I mean, Nasri has a record as well, 5 goals in 8 games. So, and he was brilliant as well. So, it was a fully deserved win. They were the better team, and obviously were capable of finishing their one chance of 10 chances, because the way the Lyon defense was, it was shocking to watch. I had my heart up in my throat because every time that Sevilla front 3 attacked Lyon, I was like, yep, they're going to trash Lyon. It's going to end up 7-0. But they were lucky to get away with conceding 1 goal, especially since Sevilla missed the penalty as well. He pulled a Ramos. So Tolisso had a chance in the second half as well. But it was so clear they were missing Lacazette. And not having that center forward up front is such a big blow. They went from trashing Montpellier 5-0 or something like that to losing to Lorient, and then losing to Sevilla. Now they have the derby coming up, and it's again a bipolar team. They can go from trashing a team to losing the next 3 and then go on a 10-win spree. So if people ever bet on Lyon, don't. I advise you not to.
No, I can confirm that. Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with you. I think they're missing Lacazette, and that was clear on Saturday as well. And I won't mention that game because I know it'll upset you. But I think it's clear they are missing him. And the only good signs is Fekir is showing little glimpses that he might be on his way back, which is good news for him and for France. So
Tolisso, we have to mention Tolisso.
Oh yes,
he's been exceptional this season. They were missing Rafael. He doesn't get enough credit. He's been so good for Lyon. They were missing him as well. And Gonalon was back in the starting 11 because he has a 4-match ban in the league. So he was struggling a lot. So it was surprising to see him start. I would have stuck with the starting 11 against Montpellier because they were playing 3-5-2, and then they had Toussaint, Cornet, Tolisso were playing as a false nine, and it was such a good performance from them that I was surprised that he didn't stick with that winning starting 11.
Just really quickly, actually, I don't want to bore our listeners because I know not everyone's as much fan of French football as we are. But just quickly, Toussaint, do you buy into the hype? Because there's been a lot of people who've asked us about him, and for those listening, he will be featured in a future Hipsters Choice. But there's a lot of hype about him and how he's sort of deputised for Gonalon. Do you buy into that hype? Because Lyon are famous for producing these players. Should we feel he is ready, or do you still think he's a little bit raw to be taking on that mantle in midfield?
Yeah, a bit of both. He's still raw, but Lyon has never had a problem with throwing young players into the starting 11. We saw that with Gasper as well. He was so good against Sevilla. Unlucky to concede the penalty, but thank God he missed it. And it was his debut game as well, 19-year-old starting. But I think that if he gets a good run of games, he could potentially go on to maybe take over for Gonalon as well, because I feel that Gonalon might be leaving next summer if a bid comes in.
I share that thought.
I think we've noticed this season, with him being out as well, that he's captain, but it's possible to replace him because you have to start coming through. You can have Sergi there, Tolisso, Jordan Ferry in midfield. It's not a bad midfield trio to have either. So I don't think he's irreplaceable. But I would give Toussaint time before starting to hype him up, because again, we have a habit of hyping up French players, and then they go on to let us down. Yeah. I would give him time, but I do see the potential. I do see what the hype is about. But I'm gonna stay calm and wait. Yeah, but I enjoyed from what I've seen so far, especially against Montpellier. He was so good. Man of the match, in my opinion. Him and Rafael, they were so good. So I hope he continues to at least play. So we'll see how it goes.
Agreed. Definitely one to keep an eye on. Couple more games I want to look at. Atletico Madrid and Bayern Munich. I really just want to look at this for the result as a whole, really. Atletico Madrid getting a 1-0 victory over Bayern. It's Ancelotti's first defeat, and there's a theme here. Another ex-Ligue 1 star, another ex-Ligue 1 player at least, in Yannick Ferreira Carrasco, signed from Monaco last summer, getting the winning goal, and Bayern Munich beaten. Is this a massive dent in the Bayern machine? I mean, a lot of Bundesliga people have been saying, and Drew's been saying this season already, that Bayern don't quite look as gelled and as free flowing as they did under Pep. They look a bit more relaxed, and they look a bit more or less pressured, shall we say, less intense. But because they've dropped that level, do you think this is a worrying defeat for them, or do you back them to turn it around in the return game?
I wouldn't necessarily say it's a worrying defeat, but I do see what Drew means. He makes a point. You could say the same about Juve, not having the same intensity, the will to win games. When you've gone to win the league for so many years, do you come to a point where it gets too boring and you want to, maybe win the Champions League? But I think, we shouldn't discredit Atletico Madrid at all. We should just look at it as a great win for them. And Bayern will return. They'll, bounce back from this. So I'm not too worried. But Ancelotti is more impressive in Europe than he is in the league, in my opinion. But we'll see how it goes.
Yeah,
I'm more worried about Griezmann missing a penalty.
Yeah, agreed.
I was like, oh, great, another penalty missed. What is it? It feels like the French players have all struggled this season.
Yeah, he hasn't quite clicked, Griezmann, has he? He's sort of like, you get flashes and then you just go, not quite. He's just not quite there, but I'm sure he'll come good. I mean, he's obviously world-class footballer, and I'm sure he'll be back. But a team that are back, at the risk of sort of being biased, but I suppose I have to be to a degree. Arsenal showed flashes once again. They certainly showed it against Chelsea at the weekend, and they took that into the home tie with Basel, where they won by 2-0. Theo Walcott is certainly making a sort of a case for being a changed man, a changed player. He got both goals, 2 very good goals, has to be said as well.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say Arsenal on the night probably could and, well, really should have won by more, but a 2-0 victory. Do you think there's just sort of a hint that something's happening at the Emirates as far as the Champions League goes? Because we've said it for years that Arsenal's style of play should suit this tournament, and the strength and depth they've got this season. Surely they've got an opportunity to get out of this group and maybe win this group ahead of what PSG are doing. Were you impressed with them the other night?
I was very impressed, and I said it when the groups were made. PSG are favorites, but I think Arsenal could end up winning the group. But, we've been here before. Every season, when they look good, they go on to, disappoint us. So I'm hopeful, but at the same time, I stopped expecting. I'm enjoying them. Their game against Chelsea were brilliant. They were so good. They looked great against Basel as well. Theo Walcott, for all the abuse he gets, some from me as well, looks like a changed man. But then again, people say that about Cavani as well, since he scored 4 against Khan. It's again about that level of consistency. Just showing that okay, I can go more than 2 games of being good. Show me that you can be consistent for a season, then we can talk about Walcott being back, or he's a changed man. But I think it's too soon to say that after 2-3 games. But he has looked great, and he does show up in big games. In my opinion, he might be Arsenal's big game player.
I think there's an argument for that. I have to say, I'd say I've been one of those. John is the same. We've been, big critics. We've criticised him quite heavily and big critics of him in the past. But you can only do what he's doing, and credit where credit's due. And same for Arsene Wenger. Seems to have found a winning formula right now. So let's hope it continues. But a winning formula is certainly not something that Unai Emery has found for PSG on a consistent basis. Anyway. They went a goal down, the Parisians, in Ludogorets. They were a goal down early on in Bulgaria, and all seemed to be going way off the rails. Just sort of briefly on PSG, they lost, of course, to Toulouse last weekend. It's been a lot of talk to change the side. They played the 4-3-3 in this game. Lucas Moura and Di Maria were flanking the Cavani, sort of the goal machine Cavani, because he scored, as you said, 4 against Khan and 2 against a hapless Ludogorets side in the end. They went back to the more structured midfield of Verratti, of Thiago Motta and Blaise Matuidi. Do you get the impression that this is going to be a PSG that is just completely, as you almost used the phrase before, a bit bipolar, and they're just going to be up and down? Or do you think Emre is going to make it click in the Champions League? Because I've seen them a lot this season, and I really don't. I just don't think that they're there. I feel they're picking strange lineups, strange formations, strange tactics, and Emre looks a little bit like a deer in the headlights to me. So what do you make of them, especially in this Champions League run?
I mean, this is the guy that was supposed to be an upgrade on Laurent Blanc. And right now, Laurent Blanc is sitting and enjoying a glass of champagne and watching this shit house. I mean, they're struggling not only on the pitch, but outside as well. Aurier just got sentenced to 2 months in jail. And he's had a shaky 2016. He's been brilliant on the pitch, but off the pitch, it's so many problems. And he was also the main reason for PSG losing against Toulouse. That was such a funny game as well. But they just don't look convincing. And teams in League One are seeing this, and they're showing zero respect. We saw that with Toulouse. They were absolutely all over PSG. And they just look clueless at times. And as you said, the tactics, the formation, his subs doesn't make sense. you're chasing goals. Why are you taking you're taking off Mora, bringing on Mota, who then gives them the golden chance and they make it 2-0. Why would you bring on him when you have Jesse on the bench? He has frozen out Ben Arfa completely. Rumors about him not being convincing in training. But we all know how Ben Arfa is. He's always never been convincing in training. It's just about being able to handle him, which Emery obviously doesn't seem to be capable of doing that.
In the right role as well.
Yeah.
Playing him up front is just, it's a joke, isn't it? Playing him up front, it's just,
he was promised that free role. That was the main reason. Well, main reason, we all know money was the main reason, but barring money, he was promised that free role, and instead he was been played as a false nine, or Lord knows what he's doing with him. And what's amazing to me is how much they're struggling without Zlatan. I mean, the impact he's not only had on the pitch but outside. Thiago Silva said it recently in an interview. Marco Verratti as well. They're really genuinely not doing well, and Di Maria has been shocking this season. I don't know if it's because Cavani shit or because he's missing Zlatan, but he's just not been convincing at all. He's been getting criticized in the media a lot as well, but I don't know. I don't think they'll do well in the Champions League. I don't know. They don't look convincing. We saw them against Arsenal as well. They should have trashed Arsenal with all the chances they had, but they got away with the 1-1 and they got robbed. But Arsenal were lucky because Cavani had 8 clear-cut chances and he scored 1, and that's it. And this is a guy that claims he doesn't get enough service.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. I look at PSG and I just I backed them to win it last year, which I know is a bit nuts, but I genuinely thought they should have beaten Manchester City and they didn't. And I thought it was wide open last year. We saw that with Madrid getting to the final and eventually winning it. I felt they were a better side, and I don't think they will have got a better chance. And this season, again, I don't see enough there, and particularly when they don't have a centre forward other than Cavani. Well, arguably they don't have a centre forward even with Cavani. I'm not convinced, but we will see. We'll no doubt touch on them again in the future.
Let's enjoy their form as it is right now.
Or lack thereof.
Yeah, I'm loving it.
Yes, me too. And the final game I want to touch on, we should just give a little nod. I will run down the other results in a minute, but a magnificent victory for Napoli, who are Europe's great entertainers right now, 4-2 win over Benfica. But it's the other game in the Manchester City Celtic group that I want to touch on finally, which is Barcelona beating poor old John's Borussia Mönchengladbach by 2-1. Torgan Hazard putting Borussia Mönchengladbach 1-0 up, but goals from Thuram and Piqué turning the game around. Barca in a rather fetching minty green strip, this new Nike template that has got a lot of Man City and Inter fans quite annoyed. Do look those kits up if you haven't seen them. But bizarre. But victory for Barcelona. Is this a sign that they won it obviously without Messi? Is this a sign that Barca are made of stronger stuff? Because I think a lot of people, including Ralf Honigstein, who would know his stuff about German football, fancy Gladbach to get something from this. But Barca dug in, came from behind, they got the points. So is this a sign that Barca are going to be able to grind games out in the Champions League this season?
Yeah, it reminded me a bit of a typical, Italian kind of mentality, grinding out those ugly results. And obviously they're struggling with that from Titi and Messi. But it was nice to see them grind out, get the result, staying defensively solid, although they had a few shaky moments. But I think that this is a time where they have to show that they can do it without Messi. And they should be capable of doing it. They have Neymar, Suarez up front. I mean, come on. The best front three in Europe. So I do hope that they do well. They're my new team in Spain anyway after Umtiti joined. So, but it's nice. It's fun to watch them, especially the way they got the result. It's not a typical Barcelona result to get. if you look at the football they were playing. So it was nice to see a different kind of a style of football being played from them.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, well, I'll just quickly run down the rest of the results. We will let you know, listeners, where the Champions League groups stand, because it's just a bit easier than the Europa League. So the other results then, Monaco drew with Bayer Leverkusen 1-1. A magnificent equaliser from Kamil Glik. If you haven't seen that, do look it up. In the last minute, finishes like a centre forward from the edge of the box. Superb. In the other game in that group, Spurs beating CSKA Moscow. A little fortuitous goal from Hong Min Sun, which squirmed away from Akinfeev for the winner. We mentioned the 2-2 draw between Dortmund and Real Madrid. The other game in that group was the 2-0 victory for Sporting over Legia Warsaw. The former Wolfsburg man Bas Dost on the score sheet there, as well as Brian Ruiz, who Fulham fans might just about remember. A good victory for Copenhagen, or Kopenhagen, depending on which way you want to pronounce it, 4-0 against Club Brugge, who seem to be the whipping boys of the group. That's back-to-back defeats for them. 4-0 result. That's quite the scoreline. Leicester City, another win for them. 2 wins out of 2. Isman Slimani, who had a superb ratio of goals when he was at Porto. When he was at Sporting against Porto, and he continued that with the winner against the Portuguese side in this one. Good result for him and for them. We mentioned Sevilla beating Lyon, and we mentioned Juventus beating Zagreb. Ludogorets and PSG, as we said, 3-1 there, and 2-0 for Arsenal. Besiktas drawing 1-1 with Dynamo Kiev. A goal for Ricardo Quaresma. He's still going, boys and girls. He's still going. And that Napoli result, 4-2 for Benfica, a goal for Marek Hamsik there, another goal for Milik from the penalty spot, and a couple from Dries Mertens. Good to see him back to fitness as well. Late rally from Benfica, Gonçalo Guedes, former Hipsters choice actually. He bagged one back, as did Salvio with 4 minutes to go, but it was too little too late, and the points stay with Napoli. And of course Mönchengladbach and Barcelona we've mentioned, City and Celtic we've mentioned, Atletico beating Bayern Munich we've mentioned. The final game with Rostov with a 2-2 draw against PSV Eindhoven. 2 goals for Polotz for Rostov, David Proper and Luc de Jong getting the equalisers for PSV. So that leaves us Group A. Arsenal are top with PSG, both with 4 points. Ludogorets and Basel on 1 each. Napoli top Group B, 6 wins, 2 wins out of 2. 6 points, 2 wins out of 2. Besiktas 2 points. Dynamo Kiev and Benfica a point apiece. In Group C, Barcelona top, 2 wins out of 2, 6 points. Manchester City second with 4 points. Celtic with 1, and Gladbach down on the bottom with none. Atletico Madrid top Group D, 2 wins out of 2. Bayern Munich second with their 3 points. PSV and Rostov both on 1. Group E, Monaco top that, 4 points. Tight group this one. Spurs 3 points. Leverkusen 2, and Moscow with 1. Group F, Borussia Dortmund and Real Madrid tied at the top, 4 points apiece. Sporting Lisbon with 3 points, and Legia Warsaw currently pointless. Group G, Leicester flying away, 2 wins out of 2, 6 points. Copenhagen, 4 points for them. Good return actually so far. They could possibly get through this group by the looks of it. Porto back on 1 point, and Club Brugge, whipping boys, 7 conceded, no goals scored. Bottom. And finally, Group H, Juventus top, 4 points. Sevilla are also top on 4 points, joint top, and Lyon with 3, and Zagreb with 0 points. Couple of games to look out for. The fixtures resume in 2 weeks' time, and a couple of the sort of fixtures that stand out. It's always a little bit tough actually to pick out which fixtures to go for, because every game sort of has something riding on it. But looking at the games coming up, I would suggest Leverkusen Spurs might be worth a watch. This is Tuesday the 18th of October. Also, Lyon Juventus. I'm sure that will be a good fun game for you to watch. Your two loves coming up against each other, so that'll be one to watch from behind the sofa.
I'm not watching.
No, I'm not surprised. And then on the Wednesday fixtures, I think probably looking at it, Barcelona Man City is the obvious standout tie. Bayern Munich PSV might be interesting. I don't know why, I just get the feeling that might be an interesting game. And Rostov Atletico Madrid, purely for the Rostov kind of new breed of Champions League. Be interested to see how they handle the pressure of playing a side like Atletico with what Simeone brings there. So there we go. Okay, before we wrap up tonight, Lana, it'd be unfair of me not to get your predictions or thoughts on both Europa League and the Champions League. I know you said there wasn't a team that really stood out for you, but as things stand right now, who are the teams that you're keeping a close eye on with regards to the Europa League and the Champions League? Which are the teams that you fancy will go quite far in both competitions?
The Champions League, I would say the top 4 teams in Europe right now would be Juve, Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern. Hopefully we'll go far, but it's a game of luck. Europa League, I'm hoping for Nice. Satchel has impressed me as well, even though they lost today. So Saint-Etienne might do well, typical of them to be bad throughout a game, but grind out results in the end. So I'm hoping for a French team, but I wouldn't be shocked if it was a Spanish team again.
I'm the same. It's all so predictable, isn't it? Damn it.
I know.
Just imagine how nice it would be for Lyon to either go far in the Champions League or somehow get into the Europa League and fluke that. I will say, I don't know if you agree with me or not, I've predicted that Monaco will be the best performing Champions League club. From my French bias, and I've got this really weird and slightly disturbing feeling that Saint Etienne might go far in the Europa League.
I hope so. Off the coefficient points. I do have a theory about Lyon. I think that they will do better in this group, where it's a tough group than they did last season in an easy group where everyone expected them to qualify. Because they did look impressive against Sevilla, but the game against Juve, oh god. Lacazette is back as well. He's back right after the international break against Nice.
Yeah.
So, and then there's Juve coming up. So I can't wait. The front two of Lacazette and Fekir, that should be fun for Juve's BBC.
Oh yes, and you know my thoughts on Lacazette, and I'm with you. I came up with one the other night. Our podcast we were doing. You've got the BBC at Real Madrid, and you've got MSN at Barcelona. I came up with CGI at Napoli.
Oh wow.
Gabbiadini. Who's the other two that I came up with? Oh crikey, I've forgotten their forward line.
But BBC was originally at Juventus, like FYI for you Madrid fans.
That's very true, yes. Yeah.
We had them first.
That is very, very true. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I can't think of the other bloody striker that I put into the CGI of Napoli, but it was Callejon. Callejon, Insigne, and Gabbiadini. So there you go. I've come up with my very own moniker there. Right, before I get thrown off the air because John hates my puns, even though his are just as bad. So if you're listening, John,
we have to do a shout out to a Manchester City shirt. It looks like a tequila sunrise drink.
It's not the best, is it? It's not.
No.
Of all of those kits, I actually quite like Inter's, even though it's really weird. And I really like Roma's, which is very Solero lolly. Barcelona's is just, well, minty. But that Man City
It looks good, though, in Barcelona's.
Yeah, it does. On the pitch. It's one of those that looks good on pitch, but to buy, I'm not sure. But Man City's, I just...
It looks like a drink.
Yeah, it does. I'm not buying it. I've got to be honest. I'm not sure. Although I was the same person that actually I really like Inter's kit with the yellow socks, and John was like, "No, that's disgusting." And now he's turned his mind around and he quite likes it now. So, yeah,
it's always convincing. You have to watch your favorite player or the team wear it, but Barcelona's looked so good on them. But if you just look at it on picture, it looks awful.
Yeah, agreed. Real Madrid's third kit though, not buying that. Yeah, that's it for Kit Watch. But and I'll give the final word to Ross tonight because he's quite rightly pulled me up and said, "Come on, Southampton to win the Europa League." Of course, Ross. I mean, it goes without saying. That's obvious. So we're trying to pick other clubs to make it interesting, naturally. But no, I hope that Saints go far and. When the time allows it, we will drag Ross on here to talk about. I think we're going to try and drag Ross on with me and John next time out because that's when, of course, Southampton play Inter and myself and John follow Inter. So that might be a good time to do that.
So disappointing.
I know. You know my love for Inter will never. Yeah, we won't mention the Juventus game.
What game?
Exactly. Right, we will leave it there then. As usual, you can subscribe to us on Twitter. You can follow us on Twitter, I should say, at the FH Podcast. For those of you listening in for the first time, we do the Satchel Pod, which is tonight, where we do the European games. We also cover the full European roundup on the Monday or Tuesday pod as it is, which is the French league, Spanish, German, and Italian leagues all in one podcast. That's every Tuesday. And myself and Ross do the English Breakfast podcast on a Sunday night, which is where we round up all of the English league action, including the Championship and below. We go all the way down the league. So do tune into those. You can subscribe via our YouTube channel, via iTunes. We're also on Stitcher and all those other little podcasty apps. And we do, of course, have a brand new SoundCloud page, which is absolutely fantastic because we can look at all the different countries that we're downloaded in. We can listen. We can find out who's listening to us and where and for how long and all sorts of things. It's genuinely fascinating. So I'm loving SoundCloud. So if you are a SoundCloud listener, please do subscribe and give us a thumbs up on YouTube, a rating on iTunes, and a subscription on SoundCloud. It all helps spread the word. So thank you very, very much. And thank you, Lana, for stepping in at fairly short notice.
Thanks for having me. Always honored.
We will have you back, I'm sure, and we'll at some point me and you will get together during the season and have a little natter about the French league. Maybe during the next international break we'll have a little chat about how things are going.
There's so many coming up. There's one coming up now and one in November.
I hate them. Ugh,
me too, and I used to love them.
Ugh, I never have. But yes, thank you very much for coming on. We appreciate it. But that was the Football Hipsters Satchel edition. As always, we say to our listeners, keep your beer strong and your glasses trendy. And we will return with the usual podcast on Sunday and Tuesday.